And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. The New York Times is reporting that a group of senior military officials may have altered intelligence reports on various military operations against ISIS in Iraq and Syria. The allegations further suggest that the alleged changes were intended to whitewash data being delivered to the White House. This would make ISIL terrorist organization appear weaker than it actually is, while further suggesting that the United States bombing campaign has been more successful than what is really taking place. Now, last week, the Daily Beast reported that the United States military changed their reports in order to fit the positive narrative the White House has been communicating to the nation, one that suggests we are actually winning the fight against ISIS. Now that the New York Times has picked up the story, if accurate, these are very, very serious accusations. I got to begin by asking everybody on the panel, do you really think that our senior military officials would actually start doctoring these reports? Joe?
No, I don't believe they would. I believe that politicians obviously would in this situation, but I don't see what senior military people, how they would benefit by putting out false reports.
Well, they would benefit if they were asked by a politician to do it.
Right. I can't, maybe I'm naive, but I can't believe that they could be coerced. But I would think that, Jonathan, you'd be able to answer this question better than I could.
I just will say this. I think that we have incompetence at the higher ranks of the DOD that we've never seen before. I think that it's become
incompetence, though?
It's incompetence. It's become so political that the DOD has become just like every other federal agency. If you just check boxes, you get to the top somehow.
Well, that is, Emery, when you read, that's a whole different thing. If they're just somehow screwing up how they're doing the reports is one thing. But if Clapper at CIA is saying to his senior intelligence officers when they're giving him the real report, now, you know, I think that might not be right. Maybe we actually blew up this many, or maybe ISIL lost X number of troops. I'm not telling you what to write. I'm just saying maybe, I mean, that's not incompetence. That's intentionally changing.
That's absolutely right. And I think it's a shame if that is what's happening, because our military, we have the strongest and best military on the face of the earth. They cannot be doing things like that, because what will happen is it gives the guys out in the field who knows what's going on, if they're not doing what these reports said that they did, they know that. And then ISIS, or ISIL, whatever you want to call them, they also know the exact same thing. And it's either going to strengthen one and weaken the other one.
That's actually a very good point, because it's not just a question of the possibility that the American public is being lied to, but ISIL knows it. Right. They know what's really going on. If they see this, what does that do? Well, I'll tell you what. It does go down below some senior officials who turned it over, because now the matter's being investigated by the Pentagon Inspector General. That being the case, should the White House be commenting on this sooner rather than later? I'd certainly like to know whether the Commander-in-Chief has unknowingly been fed sanitized war reports, or if this is coming from down below. Emery, what do you think?
And that would make a lot of difference, too, on some of the speeches that the president is giving. We're winning the war. We've heard him say that. We're doing very well. And that, I was looking at things, and I got friends that are in the military and so forth, and I said, wait a minute, that's not what they're telling me. That, you know, they have some victories. They have a lot of victories. Our military is doing a fine job. But some of the things that are coming out in these reports are contradictory. I hope they're not true, that they're doctoring these up. So, yeah, it would make a great, grave difference. So.
Jonathan, I think I know how you're going to answer this, but if this is happening, and I keep saying if, because there hasn't been, and strangely, you know, the story broke out of the Daily Beast, and then it disappeared for a week. Then the New York Times picked it back up, and I started following it a bit more closely, but it still has disappeared since then. Is the White House, if this is happening, directing this to happen, or are these intelligence people who don't want to tell the White House the truth?
I think it may be a mix of both, because the DOJ, for instance, has become so liberal that people don't want to look at the truth a lot of the times. Just like this kid.
This isn't a DOJ thing.
I know, but I'm just saying, I'm using that example. Just like this kid in Texas with this clock, people don't want to believe the reality that, hey, a kid could possibly bring a clock to school that has a bomb attached to it. I think in the DOD, you got two problems. You got people who don't want to believe that it's as bad as it is, and I think you have a lot of people that are being told, you know, it's not that bad, and then they go, okay, I'm going to write a paper, and it's not that bad.
The thing is, the American public isn't fooled, though, right? I mean, it's pretty easy to see that we're not winning the war against ISIS. We're not losing necessarily, but last I checked, Mosul is still in the hands of ISIS, and that caliphate is still spread out over half of Syria
But it's not
and a quarter of Iraq.
It's not a war on ISIS. It's a war with fundamental Islam. That's the problem.
I get that. I get that. But these reports specifically are around ISIS. And the fact is, any American watching TV can see that they're not being pushed out of anywhere. So you can doctor anything you want. It's not going to matter.
Emery,
You can see that we're not doing enough.
Did you want to add something?
Yeah, what I was going to say is this being driven by fear? Have we seen what's going on in the military, the loss of all our generals and so forth?
If it's happening, it's being driven by pure politics because the president wants to leave it for the next administration.
Great.
Are you surprised to learn that the intelligence data on ISIS may have been altered? Let us know by going to newsmaxtv.com/comments. I am very interested in hearing what our viewers have to say about this one because